a non-equilibrium system. At constant temperature and pressure, the condition for the chemical equilibrium states that the change in free energy will also be remaining constant, such that this equation will reduce to summation mu I dNi equal to 0. So this equation gives the condition for your chemical equilibrium. Suppose if we consider general reaction of this particular type, then the condition is given as at constant temperature and pressure, summation mu I equal to 0 here. And this nu generally refers to the number of moles of your respective reactants and products that are involved in a given chemical reaction here. And generally, this nu is called a stoichiometric coefficient. And this is given a positive sign for the products because the products are formed in the chemical reaction, whereas it is given a negative sign for the reactants as they are being consumed in a chemical reaction here. Then we have come across the derivation of equilibrium constant Kp, that is ideal gas reaction equilibrium. We consider general ideal gas reaction equilibrium here. Then to this reaction, we applied here chemical equilibrium condition. Then we have used the chemical potential of ideal gas here. Finally, depend using those equations and writing, finally we get the equation to be as delta G naught equal to minus RT ln Kp. This gives an expression for the derivation part of your Kp, that is the equilibrium constant. The value of this is nothing but equal to PCC, PDD by PCA, A and PBB here. And this is called the equilibrium constant of a reaction here and generally depends upon the temperature. Okay. In other form, you can write it as only the expression for Kp can be written as Kp equal to e power minus delta naught by your RT here. So generally, it's a problem-based question, or it may be asked for your derivation part also here. But this is a very important. Already, I said that Kp will depend upon the temperature. Now, how this particular dependence of temperature on Kp is given by Van 't Hoff, that equation which he obtained is called as Van 't Hoff equation here. So this is what you know, delta G naught equal to minus RT ln Kp. And then it is a Gibbs dynamic, that is Gibbs-Helmholtz equation here. Under standard condition, this is given in this manner. So then you take this particular to this side. This is what you obtain. To this equation, you differentiate partially with respect to temperature, keeping pressure constant here. Then finally, you get this particular equation. So in this equation, to this equation, you multiply the temperature on both sides and then substitute the value of this thing, substitute the value of this thing. Finally, you obtain dou ln Kp by dou T at constant pressure equal delta H naught by RT square. So this is what is called as Van 't Hoff equation, which gives the dependence of temperature T on your Kp. The value of this comes out to be as delta H naught by R. The application part, you just take out your constant term, that is what you get d ln Kp by dt equal to delta H naught by RT square at constant temperature. Then rearrange this equation, then integrate here. So this is what equation you obtain one thing. A plot of ln Kp versus 1 by t gives a straight line, and from the straight line you can find out a slope. The slope is nothing but your delta H naught. So a plot of ln Kp versus 1 by t enables us to determine the value of your standard enthalpy change here. Another thing, when you integrate the above equation between the limits of temperature, this is what the equation you obtain here. That is ln Kp of T2 minus ln Kp of T1 equal to delta H naught by R, 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. So the meaning of this thing is, don't see when the problem is given, don't substitute the value of T temperature also here. Don't substitute. So this means the value of Kp at that particular temperature. So only Kp value you have to substitute here. And this gives the value of Kp at your lower temperature T1. So only substitute the value of your Kp, but not at the temperature also here. Okay. That is the same problems are given. Sorry, I have not done. Have you anyone done the problems? Have you done? No one, it seems. This is the three problems which I've taken. I forgot, I didn't do. In the next class, I'll be doing the problems here. So then we have come across the partial molar property here. So generally, this is the partial molar property was introduced by your scientist G.N. Lewis here. He could state that that means there are certain properties, thermodynamic properties, which are found to depend not only on temperature and pressure, but they also depend on the number of moles of various components that are present in the system. That means he could state that the system under consideration was not a closed system, but it is found to be an open system here. In such a case, he defined the thermodynamic property to be a function of not only temperature and pressure, but also the number of moles of various components that are present in the system here. Okay. So here the extensive thermodynamic property, it can be your internal energy, volume, enthalpy, Helmholtz function, Gibbs free energy, or entropy. Anything you can take here. So in general, I've taken X to be a function of all this here. When you take the total differential of this thing, you take the total differential of this thing, that is what you obtain here. So all these I replace by x1 bar. I replace this particular term by x2 bar dn2 plus So R is nothing but X1 bar is nothing but partial molar property of component 1. Bar stands for the partial molar property. X stands for the thermodynamic property. When you have a bar over it, it indicates a partial molar property of component 1 here. So that property can be anything. It can be entropy, it can be enthalpy, it can be volume, anything it can be here. In general, I take all these properties as equal to X here. So X1 bar is nothing but dou X by dou Ny. That means your X extensive property. This is your extensive property, total property here. This is varied with respect to your N1 component mole here, whereas other moles will be kept constant, that is temperature, pressure. When it is varied with your N1, the other moles has to be kept constant, that is N2, N3, so on your Nk here. So this is how you define partial molar property of component 1 is nothing but your change in an extensive thermodynamic property, that is X per mole of your added component N1 when temperature, pressure, other moles of the substance remaining constant here. Now, how do you define X2 bar? So here X is varied with respect to your N2 mole. 2 is there, N2 mole it refers here. So X2 bar is nothing but equal to dou X by your dou N2, temperature, pressure. Now what you have to keep constant? N is being varied. So other than N, you have to keep the moles constant. So other than N2, what you have? N1. Then N is being varied, that you leave it N1, N3, N4, so on your Nk. So like that you have to keep constant. When the respective mole is varied, other moles has to be kept constant. So like that, what you get? Xk bar equal to dou Xk by dou Nk, temperature, pressure, N1, N2, so on, N of K minus 1. So before Nk, what you have is nothing but N of K minus 1. So all these properties, X1 bar, X2 bar, X3 bar, X4 bar, so on Xk bar are called the partial molar properties of your components 1, 2, 3, so on respectively here. So this is how you define in general the partial molar property of component I defined as Xi bar equal to dou X. This is capital X, not small x here. Dou X by dou Ni is not there here. Temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I here. So this is how you put it in a statement form is nothing but partial molar property of a given component I is defined as equal to increase in an extensive thermodynamic property when 1 mole of the component is added or per mole of added components when temperature, pressure, other moles of the substances are held constant here. So here, when you add a 1 mole to such a large amount of the system, when you add a 1 mole to your X, so that will not make any change in the concentration of your solution here. So that's why this Xi bar is found to be an intensive thermodynamic property here. Why we say it is intensive thermodynamic property here? So though 1 mole of various components is added to your X, that addition of 1 mole will not bring any change in the concentration here. So in such a case, this Xi bar is considered to be an intensive thermodynamic property here. Now same whatever you have done for the partial molar property, now you take the property to be as a volume. So when I take volume, what I can write? V as a function of your temperature, pressure, N1 into so on your Nk here. The total differential of PV is given in this manner. And again, all these quantities you write it as V1 bar, this V2 bar, Vk bar, so on here. And here V1 bar is nothing but equal to dou V by dou Ny, temperature, pressure, into comma N3, so on Nk. Similarly, V2 bar equal to dou V by dou N2, temperature, pressure, N1, comma N3, comma so on Nk here. Like this, if you go on Vk bar, you can write it as dou V by dou Nk, temperature, pressure, N1, N2, so on, N of K minus 1 here. So V2 bar represents partial molar volume of component 2. Vk bar represents the partial molar volume of component K here. So all these terms V1 bar, comma V2 bar, so on, Vk bar are called the partial molar volumes. Now what property I have taken? Volume is taken. So that's why we define as partial molar volumes of components 1, 2, so on, K respectively here. Okay. So now what I do is all I can put it in summation. All these terms I can put it in a summation. How I can keep summation? Vi bar dni. Vi bar dni. What the I value is taking from? I is taking from 1 to so on your K. So why I take the values from 1 to K components here. So when I represent all these terms in summation, I get it is like this. So these terms are written as it is plus summation I is 1 to K Vi bar dni here. Now keep your temperature and pressure constant. So when you keep temperature and pressure constant, definitely the change in temperature and pressure will be equal to zero values here. So substitute 0 here. 0 into 0 is nothing but 0. 0 into this thing dp, you substitute 0. 0 into this thing is 0. So what do you get? dV equal to summation Vi bar ni. So this equation will give the relation between your volume and your summation. That is change in your volume and your partial molar volume. dV equal to summation Vi bar dNi. Now using this equation, we obtain an expression for the relation between the volume of the solution. Only V, not dV. dV represents the change in the volume. But we get an expression between the volume of the solution and partial molar volume here. That is what done in the last class. We have taken this particular equation as it is here. Now dV equal to, now you remove the summation. Here you remove summation. Now substitute all the values of I from 1 to k. What I can write? V1 bar dn1 plus V2 bar dn2, V3 bar dn3, V4 bar dn4, V5 bar dn5. So like this, so on your k component, you can write it here. Now in general, any one should know that already the mole fraction of any component I is defined as number of moles of that component by total number of moles. Mole fraction is nothing but xi equal to ni by n here. Suppose I will take I equal to 1, x1 will be equal to n1 by n. So xi is nothing but x1 stands for the mole fraction of that component equal to number of moles of that component by total number of moles that are present in the system. Okay, now cross multiply. I'm cross multiplying. Here it will be 1. 1 into n1 is ni. Xi into n is nothing but n x ni here. Simply differentiate this equation. Now what do you get? dni equal to xi dn plus n into dxi. Simply differentiate that equation. That is what I've obtained this particular thing. That is dni equal to xi dn plus ni into dxi here. Okay. Now, suppose if you assume that the composition is fixed. When the composition is fixed, definitely the change in the composition will be equal to 0. That is, your mole fraction term will become equal to 0. dxi will be equal to 0 here. Substitute over here. 0 and 10 is nothing but 0. What you get is dni equal to xi dni. dni equal to xi dni. Suppose if I take n1 I equal to 1 here, how I can write? dn1 equal to x1 dn. If I take I equal to 2, dn2 equal to x2 dn. Like this, you can substitute for the various values of the components. Use this particular equation in your here, where in place of dn1, dn2, dn3, so on. So dn1 I can write it as x1 dn, dn2 I can write it as x2 dn, dn3 I can write it x3 dn. Like this you can write and substitute that condition over in equation 1 here. Now what I get? I get this particular value dv equal to v1 bar x1 dn1, v2 bar x2 dn, v3 bar x3 dn, so on here. Now simply integrate this equation. I'm integrating on all the sides, both the sides I integrate, and these are remaining constant because we fix the composition x here, definitely it remains constant, and vi bar is a constant term here. So I take, so I'm taking integrating first all these terms. Since these two are remain unchanged, I take it outside here. That is what I brought here. Inside what you have is integral dn, integral dn, integral dn here, integral of dv. So integral of dx is nothing but x, integral of dv is nothing but v here. So v1 bar x1, integral of dx is x, integral of dn is nothing but n, v2 bar x2 dn, v3 bar x3, and here so on here. Now I can substitute this by your n1, x1 n equal to, I can write it as n1. How? Here you can see ni equal to xi n here. If I take I equal to 1, n1 equal to x1 n. If I take I equal to 2, n2 equal to x2 n. So like that you substitute over the value here. So x1 n I can write it as n1. x2 into n I can write it as n2, that is number of moles of component 2. x3n I can write it as n3, so on here. Now put all these now in a summation. How I can put v equal to summation vi bar ni, vi bar ni. I can take the values from 1, 2, 3, so on k. So I can take the values from I equal to 1 to k here. So this equation v, which is v equal to summation vi bar ni, this gives an expression for the relation between the volume of the solution, that is total volume of the solution V, and your partial molar volume, that is V bar or Vi bar. Remember this equation, total relation between your volume of the solution and the partial molar volume is nothing but V equal to summation Vi bar Ni. I take the values from 1 to k here. Okay. So this equation, this gives an expression derivation for your relation between your solution volume and your partial molar volume here. Okay. You don't forget to keep bar here. Bar stands for the partial molar volume. If you don't keep V bar over there, that represents only the volume of the solution here. Okay. Now use this equation for your determination of partial molar volumes. So there are many methods for determining the partial molar volume of the given system here. But in your syllabus, you have only two methods. One is a slope method, other is your intercept method here. This is very easy. It's very, very easy here. First, I move to a slope method. So here, what you do is you consider a binary system, binary solution. Binary means two here. So solution containing any two components, you can refer it as a binary solution or binary system. So here I consider a solution, binary solution, which is containing, which is having the two components. Let the two components be taken as 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2, I write it here. Now, how can I give the partial molar volume of component 2? The partial molar volume of component 2 is, so before that, I go for expressions. Here I go. So in general, how do you define the partial molar property of component I? I define it as xi bar equal to dou x by dou ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. Now, how do you give the relation between the volume of the solution and total volume of the solution? X equal to summation xi bar ni. X equal to summation xi bar ni here. So this is the how you define in general the partial molar property, and this is the relation which gives the volume total property of the solution in your partial molar property here. Suppose here this x can be taken any properties here, that is u, v, h, a, g, and s here. Suppose first I take as v. If I take the thermal property as a volume, I can write it as how I can define the partial molar volume of component I as in how way? Vi bar equal to dou V by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. Now, how do you give the relation between the volume of the solution, partial molar volume? V equal to summation Vi bar Ni here. So, in general, I defined here, but if you substitute one by one the thermal property, I can write like this here. This gives a partial molar volume of component I, and this gives relation between the volume of the solution and your partial molar volume. Suppose if I take the other property, like enthalpy, if I take, now how do I define enthalpy, partial molar property of enthalpy? I can define the partial molar property of partial molar enthalpy of component I as Hi bar equal to dou H by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. So this is how you define the partial molar property, where the property is now taken as enthalpy. Hi bar equal to dou H by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. Now how do you give the relation between the total enthalpy and the partial molar enthalpy? I can write it as H equal to summation Hi bar Ni. So this is how you go for enthalpy. If I move for your what Helmholtz function, how I define the Helmholtz function? Partial molar Helmholtz function of ith component is defined as Ai bar equal to dou A by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. Now how do you give the relation between the total Helmholtz function and the partial molar Helmholtz function? That is nothing but A equal to summation Ai bar Ni. Now, how do I go for free energy? How do you define the partial molar free energy of ith component? That is defined as Gi bar equal to dou G by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I. Now, how do you give the relation? G equal to summation Gi bar Ni. This stands for the total free energy, whereas Gi bar stands for the partial free energy. This is the partial free energy and this is the total free energy. R G equal to summation. I told already for the pure component, Gi bar can be taken as mu I. Mu I is nothing but your chemical potential, that is nothing but dou G by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, N not equal to I here. And this value for the pure components is taken as Gi bar here. So I can write the Gi bar is nothing but equal to mu I. So I can write G equal to summation mu I Ni here. Now how do you find the partial molar entropy of the ith component? That is defined as Si bar equal to dou S by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I. How do you give the relation? S equal to summation Si bar Ni. If I move to internal energy, Ui bar equal to dou U by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I here. And the total relation is given as nothing but U equal to summation Ui bar Ni. Remember, this is the relation between the total internal energy and the partial internal energy. This is how you define the partial molar internal energy of the component I. That is Ui bar equal to dou U by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I here. So this is how you go have to move for the definition or define the partial molar entropy. How to give the relation between the total entropy and the partial molar entropy means you should remember all these relations. This you remember, that's it. This is how you define the partial molar property here, thermodynamic property. If you replace thermodynamic property one by one like entropy, free energy like this, you can, in place of x, you have to put that particular property here. That should remember that xi bar equal to dou x by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I. Relation is nothing but x equal to summation xi bar Ni. So this should be remembered here. Okay. Now similarly, I use this relation over here. How do you define the partial molar property of component 2? See, I'm taking the system containing only two components, 1 and 2, not the k components. 1, 2, 3, so on, k components. I'm not taking. I'm taking only a binary system which is containing only two components, because binary stands for two. Only two components I'm taking in 192 here. Now, how do you give the partial molar volume of component 2? So, component 2 is given as V2 bar, partial molar volume component 2. How you write dou V by dou N2, because I'm varying with respect to component 2 here. Now, what you have to keep constant now? Temperature, pressure, and N1, not N3, N4, Nk. So, not like that. I'm not taking Nk components. I'm taking the system only having two components. So, when your V is varied with your one component, other component has to be kept constant, not all the components. So, since here you are taking only V2 bar, I can write it as dou V by dou N to temperature, pressure, N1. Suppose if I take V1 bar, if I take V1 bar, the value will be equal to partial molar component, partial molar volume of component 1. I can write it as how?
Dou V
Dou
by
V,
dou N1,
uh,
P1, N2.
uh, N2. Like that you have to do. Okay. This is not T1, T comma P. T comma P, N2, like that. So when you are varying thermodynamic property with one component, other component has to be kept. Other components that are present in the system only have to keep, not all the K components. Because I am taking only the system, a binary system which is having only two components, 1 and 2. So when I go for the partial molar volume of component 2, I have to keep in one constant here. That is V2 bar equal to dou V by dou A into temperature, pressure, and your N1 here. Now what you do is you prepare a mixture of solution. How you prepare a mixture of solutions? You prepare a mixture of solutions such that the number of moles of component 1 are kept constant. You are keeping the number of moles of component constant, and you are varying the number of moles of component 2. Okay, I am preparing a mixture of solutions. I am preparing different solutions by taking combination of N1 and N2 mole. How I am taking the combination? That the number of moles of component 1 you are keeping constant. The moles will be same for N1, component 1. But what you are doing? You are changing the number of moles of component 2. You are varying the number of moles of component 2. Now here N1 is kept constant. I am taken N2 value something. Now you measure the volume of the solution. At the same time, you have to measure the volume of the solution also here. So like that for different that is for different number of moles of component 2 and keeping the number of moles of component 1, we have to measure the volume of the solution also here. So I'm preparing a solution, different number of solution such that the number of moles of component 1 is held constant, and you have to vary, you have to change the number of moles of component 2, and at the same time you also measure the volume of the solution, that is V here. Now what you do is you plot a graph between the volume of the solution V and against your number of moles of component 2. That is what you obtain like this. When you plot a graph between volume of the solution and number of moles of your component 2, you get a curve. You get a curve of this type here. This is what you can see here, curve here. But generally we know that we cannot find the slopes for a curve. It is not possible to find the slopes for a curve here. Only for the straight lines you can find the slopes here. Okay. Now what you have to do, you have to get a straight line to the curve here. Now you have to drop a line to the curve such that that straight line will touch at the tip of a curve. Okay. So that line is called a tangent. A tangent is a line, a straight line, which will touch the curve at a particular point here. Okay. Now what I do is I drop a tangent to this particular curve here. Now you have to find out the slope of the straight line. Now you can find out the slope for this particular straight line. Now when you find out the slope, that slope value is nothing but V2 bar. It gives the value of your V2 bar. That is nothing but dou V by dou N2 temperature, pressure, and your N1 here. So from the straight line, the slope value gives the value of partial molar volume of your component 2. Now how do you find the partial molar volume of component 1? So that can be done by using the relation V equal to V1 bar N1 plus V2 bar N2 here. How did you get this equation? By this here. This is what the equation which gives the volume of the solution in your partial molar volume. Since I'm taking only a binary system, you have only two components, that is 1 and 2. So I can write this equation as V equal to V1 bar N1 plus V2 bar N2. That is what I've done here. That is what is taken. V equal to, this is the relation between your partial molar volume and total volume of the solution. V equal to V1 bar N1 plus V2 bar N2. This is only for two components because it's a binary system here. So the V is known to you because you already measured the volume of the solution. V1 bar is not known to you. N1 is known, N2 is known. V2 bar from the slope is known here. So since all these values are known, now you can find out the partial molar volume of your component 1 here. So this is how you can find out the partial molar volumes for a given system by using a slope method. Because from the slope only we are getting the partial molar volume, that is V2 bar. So that's why it is referred to as slope method here. Okay, it's very simple. You can see that we're just considering a binary system which is containing two components. Let the components be labeled as 1 and 2 here. Now we can define the partial molar volume as component 2 as V2 bar equal to dou V by dou A into temperature pressure, comma N2 here. Now what you have to do is you prepare a mixture of solutions such that the number of moles of component 1 is held constant. You are changing the number of moles of component 2. At the same time, you have to measure the volume of the solution. You plot a graph between your volume of the solution and your number of moles of component 2. You get a curve of this type here. But in general, you cannot find the slope for a curve here. It is not possible to find out the slope or intercept for a curve here. Therefore, you drop a tangent to the curve. Tangent is nothing but it's a straight line which touches the curve at this particular point. You can see this is the point where the straight line is passing here. And for this slope, you can find out for this particular straight line, you can find out the slope. So the slope gives the value of your V2 bar. Slope will give the value of V2 bar, that is dou V by dou into temperature pressure in one here. So once this V2 bar is obtained, you can find out the partial molar volume of component 1 by using this particular relation, that is V equal to V1 bar N1 plus V2 bar into all these values are known. This is known, this is known, N2 is known, V is known. Now we can find out the value of your V1 bar. So this is regarding the slope method. And what is intercept method? So this has advantage over your slope method. So there what you have done in slope method, first you have determined the partial molar volume of one component and knowing the value of that particular V2 bar from the graph, then you have determined the value of V1 bar here. But here, the advantage of this method is that you can directly determine both the partial molar volumes of two components simultaneously. At a time, you can find out the partial molar volumes of two components at a time here. That is advantage over your slope method. And this has been useful in many cases here. Many in method, this is found to be one of the best over your slope method here for the determination of partial molar volumes here. So similarly, same we consider binary system here containing two components 1 and 2 here. There is now the for this particular system we can write the volume of the solution. We can give it as V equal to N1 V1 bar plus N2 V2 bar. This is already known to you here. Now to this equation you divide by the total number of moles. Total number of the moles means what? The number of moles that are present here, N1 and N2 are the two components are present, therefore you have only two moles, N1 and N2. Total number of moles will be N1 plus N2. So what you do is divide this equation with total number of moles. Where you have to divide on both sides, you have to divide over here V by N1 plus N2 equal to N1 by N1 plus N2 into V1 bar plus again N2 by N1 plus N2 into V2 bar. Now what does this give? V by number of moles give the molar volume. What total volume per mole gives a molar volume equal to then N1 by N1 plus N2 gives a mole fraction of your component 1, that is X1 V1 bar as it is, plus N2 by N1 plus N2 gives a mole fraction of your component 2 because N2 is there. N2 by total number of moles gives a mole fraction of that component, that is X2 V2 bar as it is here. Now what you do is, already we know that the sum of the mole fraction is always equal to 1. So any number of the mole fraction, suppose many components are present in the system, the sum of the mole fraction of that many components will be always equal to 1. It is always equal to 1. It means what does it indicate that? The sum of the mole fraction of that particular component will be always equal to 1. It is always equal to 1. It means you join again, please. Join again, ma. Yeah. So similar in case of intercept method also, you consider binary solution which is having two components. Let the components be labeled as 1 and 2 here. You can see that. So now you can give the that is total volume of this particular solution is given as V equal to N1 V1 bar plus N2 V2 bar. Now what you do is you divide this throughout equation by total number of moles. How many components are present? Two components. How many moles you have? N1 and N2 only here. Total number of moles will be yours. Sum of two moles, that is N1 plus N2. So divide this equation by your total number of moles, that is N1 by N1 plus N2 here. That is what I've done here. Divided here, divided to RHS side also I've divided. To each term I divided to RHS side here. Now volume per number of moles give the partial molar volume, that is Vm here. Vm stands for your molar volume here. Molar volume equal to N1 by N1 plus N2 gives the mole fraction of that component, and N2 by N1 plus N2 gives a mole fraction of that component 2 here. That is X2 here, it stands for your X1 here. Now generally we know that sum of the mole fraction is always equal to 1. Sum of the mole fraction. How many moles are there? Only 2 moles. That is X1 plus X2 will be equal to 1 here. Suppose you have 5 moles, 5 components there. The sum of the mole fraction will be equal to 1. That is X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus X4 plus X5 equal to 1. That means any number of components that are present in a system, the sum of the mole fractions is always will be equal to 1 only here. So what does it indicate then? It indicates that the mole fraction of the individual component will be always less than 1. So that means it can be 0.5, 0.5, it can be 0.3, 0.7, it can be 0.7, 0.3, anything it can be. It indicates that the mole fraction of the individual component will be always equal to less than 1. Okay, because the sum of the mole fraction is always equal to 1 here, stating that the individual mole fraction will be always equal to, is always less than 1 only here. That means it will be in the points only, but not equal to 1 here. Okay, so since here two components are present here, sum of mole fractions will be equal to x1 plus x2 equal to 1 here. Now x1 will be equal to x1 I want. Take this x2 this side. You get x1 equal to 1 minus x2. Now I can replace this x1 value by 1 minus x2 into v1 bar. Multiply v1 bar to both the terms. So 1 into v1 bar is v1 bar minus x2 into v1 bar is x2 v1 bar plus x2 v2 bar. Again you can see what you can see, x2 is common. x2 is common here, x2 is common here. Take it as common here. What do you get? Vm equal to v1 bar. Then plus I've taken took plus x2 here plus x2. So what do you get? V2 bar minus V1 bar, because x is taken common out. So when you take x2 out here as a common term, you get inside the bracket as V2 bar minus V1 bar. Make it as equation 2. Now you plot a graph between yeah plot a graph between your volume of the, that is molar volume, against your mole fraction, that is x2. This gives the mole fraction of your component 2 here. I'm plotting a graph between your volume, that is molar volume of the solution, and your x2. That is what you get a curve. Draw the curve neatly in your notebook here. This is somewhat bent. It should be like you, like this. So you get a curve of this type here. Okay. Now you know that for a curve you cannot find a slope here. Again you drop a tangent to the curve. This is what a tangent that is drawn here. Now the intercepts which you find on the vertical axis, the intercept which you find on this axis, that gives the value of your V1 bar, and intercept which you find on this particular axis from your particular this point, that gives the value of your V2 bar. So this how you can see that clearly from the graph. That means graphically you can observe both the partial molar volumes of two components V1 bar and V2 bar on the vertical axis of your tangent line here. Okay, so this is how you determine both the partial molar volumes at a time. Okay, this by the plot of your Vm against your x2 here. Now how do you get this value of your V1 bar? Here you can see here. So this is a mole fraction of your component 2, which can take the values from 0 to 1. 0 to 1 here. Okay, now if I take x2 equal to 0, if I take x2 equal to 0, then what do I get? Substitute over here. If I take x2 equal to 0, 0 into this thing will be 0 here. Now what I get? Vm equal to V1 bar. If I take x2 equal to 0, then from the equation 2, I get Vm equal to V1 bar. Now what does it indicate? This gives the partial molar volume of component 1, and this is nothing but the intercept on your LHS side. This is your LHS side here, because I'm taking 0, x2 equal to 0 here. And this Vm value is found to be what? V1 bar here. And this V1 bar is nothing but your intercept on your left hand side here, which gives the value of partial molar volume of component 1 here. Suppose if I take x2 equal to 1, the maximum value is nothing but 1 here. If I take x equal to 1, substitute over here. X equal to 1, I substitute 1 into V2 bar minus V1 bar is nothing but V2 bar minus V1 bar plus V1 bar minus V1 bar goes off. You get Vm equal to V2 bar. That is what I get. If x3 equal to 1, then from the equation you get Vm equal to V2 bar. This is nothing but your intercept on your RHS side. Vm value is nothing but here V2 bar, which is found to be intercept on your RHS side here. That gives the partial molar volume of component 2 here. So that is how you can find out the partial molar volumes of two components from the plot of your Vm and your x2 by your intercept method here. So this method is found to be one of the most useful method for determining the partial molar volume of two components simultaneously. So this is regarding the two steps, that is two methods, slope and intercept method, which are used for determining the partial molar volume of a given component for a given system. But the system what I consider is only a binary system here. It's a very easy that we can determine for a simple system, that is binary system. Slope method where you could determine the partial molar with the slope here. Intercept method is the one where you determine the partial molar volumes of the two components of binary solution from your intercept values here. Okay, this is regarding this is very very important. I'm saying generally it's a pucker definite question. 100% time, 100% it will be asked in the examination. Define the partial molar property or partial molar volume, and they will ask that give the methods for the determination of your partial molar volumes. So slow method you have to go, then you have to go for your intercept method. Okay, it's very easy here. Same thing I consider here binary system. Total volume I've taken here and divide that this equation 1 by total number of moles. That is what you get final equation here. Then plot a graph between your Vm and your x2. You get a curve of this type. But for a curve, you cannot find the slope. You drop a tangent here. When you drop a tangent, you find two intercepts here. That is V1 bar and V2 bar. And mathematically, from the equation you can obtain by substituting x2 equal to 0, you get a value of Vm equal to V1 bar. That gives the intercept on your LHS side. That is the partial molar volume component 1. If I take x2 equal to 1, that gives the value of V2 bar from your that equation. So that gives a partial molar volume of component 2. This is how you can determine the partial molar volumes of two components graphically by your intercept method here. And this is a note I've given already. Remember this definition. This is very, very important definition. This is what, and this is a problem that is given to you. What is the volume of the solution obtained by adding 30 ml of ethanol and 70 ml of water? It is given that the partial molar volume of water is 18 ml per mole, and that of your alcohol, that is ethanol, is 52.6. Density of your alcohol in ethanol is nothing but 0.785 gram per mole here. What is asked here? Volume of the solution, that is V. V is asked here. How many components are present? Can you tell me here? In this problem, what are the components that are present? How many components are present?
Two components are present.
What are
One
the
is
two?
water
Now, one is water, other is?
and ethanol.
Now, how do you give
Ethanol
the
and water,
expression?
two components.
How do you give the expression for the volume of the solution? V, capital V?
V is equal to V1 bar into N1 plus
Yeah.
V2 bar into N2.
That is what I can write. V equal to V1 bar of ethanol, N of ethanol plus V bar of water and N of water. I can write like that. That is what I've done here. Where is the problem? You didn't go for the problem. All these problems I'll do and send it to you. Okay. That is I can do. Okay. That is what the formula you have to put. V equal to N of V1 bar of ethanol, N of ethanol plus V2 V bar of water and N of water. Okay, and V bar of water is given to you. V bar of ethanol alcohol is also given to you here. But here, what is given? The volume. What is the volume? So by adding this volume is given. Okay, by adding 30 ml of ethylene, 70 ml of water here. But here you have to apply the formula of density in order to get the value of number of moles of ethanol and number of moles of your water. Okay, n equal to that I do and send it to the problem. In the next class, I explain all those problems are here. So applying the density value of ethanol is given, water is also known, that is one value here. Substitute those values into density equal to mass by volume, where mass is expressed into number of moles into molecular weight. Finally, get the value for your n. That n value after getting your ethanol and alcohol, substitute in the equation, then you can get the problem. That I'll do and explain again here. Okay, that's how to do it. Then significance of partial molar properties. What is the importance of partial molar properties here? So generally we know that all these are extensive properties. They are not intensive. All these are extensive properties. So corresponding to each extensive property, you have partial molar properties also. That is UI bar, VI bar, HI bar, AI bar, GR by SI bar. That we have seen already definitions here. So to any extensive thermodynamic property, there is a corresponding partial molar property, that is xi bar, which can be equal to ui bar, vi bar, hi bar, ai bar, gi bar, si bar. And generally these are the equation that is known to you. H equal to u plus pv, a equal to u minus ts, g equal to h minus ts. All those refer to the total quantities. They are not the partial molar quantities. All those refer to the total thermodynamic quantities here. Now what you do is take equation one by one. Take equation 1, differentiate all these individually. You take equation 1 by 1 and differentiate partially with respect to your Ni. Keep in temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to constant. Then we get the following equations. Directly written. So see, I just tell you, simply listen here. Okay, I am taking this equation, differentiating this equation partially with respect to Ni. Okay, and I keep temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I. So when I do that, what I get this equation as, I tell you, dou H by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I, equal to dou U by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I, plus P is kept constant, I should not vary. Then volume, dou V by dou Ni, temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I. Now dou H by dou Ni, temperature, pressure not equal to I, what is that value? Hi bar. Dou U by dou Ni, temperature, pressure not equal to Ui bar, that value. Dou V by dou Ni, temperature, pressure not equal to Nj, what is that? This is Vi bar. That is what? All these dou U by dou Ni, that value gives a partial molar properties here. So when I differentiate this equation and substitute the definition of partial molar properties, I can write these equations as like this. Hi bar, I directly I've given, no need of going for that thing. Directly you put it like this only. Hi bar equal to ui bar plus pvi bar, because p is kept constant, that will not be varied. Then you get ai bar equal to ui bar minus tsi bar, gi bar equal to hi bar minus tsi bar. Now what you can find, just see these equations, observe these equations. Do you find any change in the equations? Here it is h equal to u plus pv. Same here also. Hi bar equal to ui plus pvi bar here. Okay. Similarly, when you see the other two equations also, they are same. That means here also same. Only thing is there you have total properties. Here you have partial molar properties. But the relation what you have between HU, PV, same relation holds for your partial molar properties also here. So this states that the partial molar properties are related to each other in the same way. That is, whatever the relation you find between uh, P and V in the above, same relation you find for the partial molar properties also here. So this is what we conclude that, the partial molar properties also are related to also in the same way as they are related to the total quantities here. So all they refer to the total quantity, they are not the partial molar properties. But when I take this equation individually and differentiate partially with respect to Ni, keeping temperature, pressure, Nj not equal to I get these final equations. So you can see that the relation which you have between them and here is not changed. Only there it refers to total quantities, but here it refers to the partial molar properties here. So thus we can say the significant importance is that the partial molar property will retain the same relation between each other what they are in the total properties. Okay, so that is what one significance here. And second significance is that generally this is the equation known to you, x equal to summation xi bar ni here. Suppose I consider only one component. I take only a single component is present. Then you don't have summation. So what I can write? X equal to x1 bar n1 I can write. When I consider this equation only for a one component, I can write it as x equal to x1 bar n1. Okay. Now bring this n1 to this side. What do you get? X1 bar will be equal to x by n1. Now what is this? Total quantity per mole is nothing but xm. Molar property here. Molar total property here. So now what I can write? X1 bar equal to xm because property, thermodynamic property per mole gives the molar property here. Now I can see that the partial molar properties, they become equal to a molar properties for a single component or for a pure substance. For pure components, that means when the component is present in the pure state, the partial molar properties will become identical, will become equal to your molar quantities. So that is the second significance. And third significance is that we know this is the equation x equal to summation xi bar ni here. Suppose if we assume that all the number of moles of the components in the system are increased, then what happens? The total quantity will not, then the partial molar property will not increase here. So when I'm increasing the total number of moles of the components that are present in the system, then the partial molar property will not increase here. What is that it will increase? The total property will increase here. So this is increasing, then definitely this will be remaining constant such that it will become an intensive thermodynamic property. So that is the third significance here. If all NIs are increased at constant temperature and pressure, it is not the Xi bar which will increase, but it is x, that is total quantity, that is extensive property, that will increase here because xi bar is found to be a intensive thermodynamic property here. So these are the three important significance here. First significance is that the partial molar properties are related to each other in the same relation as the total quantities are related to one another here. And second significance is that for any pure component or any pure substances, the partial molar properties, they become identical with your molar quantities here. And the third significance is that when in all the ends, that is when all the number of moles of the systems component in the system are increased, it is not the partial molar property that it will increase, it is the total quantity that will increase with your increase in number of moles here, because xi bar is found to be an intensive thermodynamic property here. Okay, so this is regarding significance of partial molar property. This is not that much important, but this is very, very important. Variation of chemical potential with temperature, and then you have variation of chemical potential with your pressure. Suppose if you know the procedure, know the method of finding out with respect to your temperature, same process has to be done with your pressure. Okay, that's it. So when you are varying with temperature, you have to keep pressure constant. When you are varying chemical potential with pressure, you have to keep temperature constant. That's it. So this, you see this here. With this is all the equation known to you. dg equal to minus sdt plus vdm. This is the equation which can be applied only for the closed system, for your reversible system, and for your equilibrium systems here. Okay. So we know that this is one of the Gibbs equation, G equal to minus SDT plus VDP. So now I am varying a chemical potential with temperature. So when you are varying chemical potential with temperature, you have to keep pressure constant. You remember, when chemical potential is varied with temperature, you have to keep pressure constant. When you are varying with pressure, you have to keep temperature constant here. So since temperature is varied, you have to keep pressure constant. So at constant pressure, what happens? dP will be equal to 0. Put 0 over here, 0 to V 0. Now what I get? dG equal to minus SDT. dG equal to minus SDT. Or bring D2 to this side. What do you get? dG by dt equal to minus S. Now put it in the dou form. When I keep D into dou, you have to show the constant term. That is what I said. When you are showing D into dou form, you have to mention the constant terms in the subscript side here. If you don't want to show, then you just write it as dg by dt equal to minus S. At constant pressure, you have to write it in the bracket here. Okay. Now put it in the dou form. What I get? Dou g by dou t. I'm keeping a pressure constant, and Ni also, Nj also I keep here. Nj refers to the fixed composition. So Nj stands for your fixed composition here. So that value I can write it as this. I can write it as dou g by dou t at constant pressure, comma Nj. Nj represents the composition, number of moles of the system that is kept constant, because this is the equation which is applicable for a closed system when the composition is fixed here. I show that composition to be as Nj here, and that value equal to minus S. Now listen carefully here. So now what you do is differentiate this equation partially with respect to your Ni. I'm varying this equation partially with respect to Ni. keeping temperature, pressure, engine not equal to I as a constant. Okay, entire equation to differentiate partial with respect to Ni, keep all this constant here. Now move to your left hand side. What do you have left hand side? This term is there. Now this term is differentiated to which term? Ni. So dou by dou Ni I have written. This term I have written. Put the bracket again. Now what I have to I have kept some constant term that you have to show in the subscript. What is kept constant? Temperature, pressure, engine not equal to. Temperature, pressure, engine not equal to. Written here. Now move to your right hand side. This is done. Move to your right hand side. What do you have right hand? Minuses. So minus I kept. This the right hand side is differentiated with respect to what? Ni. Dou by dou Ni. Partially with respect to Ni. So that means dou by dou Ni. Keep the bracket. What do you kept constant? Temperature, pressure, engine not equal to. Temperature, pressure, engine not equal to. So this is how you differentiate the equation. You have differentiated equation to partially with respect to Ni. That is dou by dou Ni. Keep temperature, pressure, engine not equal to constant. That is what is done here. Now what I do is I interchange in the terms. Listen carefully here. Dou T I take out, dou Ni I take inside. Dou T I take out, dou Ni inside. When I interchange, here the subscripts also get interchanged. The subscripts also interchange at the same time. So I take dou Ni inside and this will come inside. That is what dou Ni inside it came. And this will move outside, that is pressure Nj. And again this dou T will come outside, that is what I've done. I've interchanged this bottom numerator, denominator terms. At the same time, the constant terms also get interchanged. Equal to this minus I've taken outside. So minus dou S by dou N temperature engine all equal to. Now what is this? What is this? This is nothing but actually GI bar. I said this is nothing but GI bar. This is how you define. Dou G by dou Ni temperature, pressure, engine not equal to is nothing but GI bar. Dou G by dou Ni temperature nothing but GI bar. Generally for a pure components, this GI bar is nothing but equal to mu I bar. GI bar equal to mu I. That is what I keep here. That gives the definition of GI. Already this is defined as this. I've defined here only chemical potential. Yeah, it is gone. Yeah. This is how defined chemical potential. Dou G by dou N and temperature, pressure, engine not equal is nothing but mu I. That is a chemical potential. So that is what you substitute over here. Yeah. So here I substitute. This value is nothing but mu I. What I get dou mu I by dou T, pressure Nj equal to minus. What is this value? According to definition of partial molar property, this value is nothing but what? SI bar. Dou S by dou Ni temperature, pressure, engine not equal gives the value of your SI bar here. That is the partial molar entropy of component I. Now finally, what do you obtain when you vary your chemical potential with your temperature? So that gives the value of minus SI bar. So this shows that we know that entropy is always a positive quantity. It can never be a negative value. It is always a positive quantity. Positive into negative is negative. So right hand side is negative. What does it indicate that? It indicates that the chemical potential of ith component decreases with increase of your temperature at constant pressure. So this is how you have to put it in the statement form. When you're given a mathematical form, you have to put it in a statement form like that. Since NC is always a positive quantity, positive into negative is negative. RHS negative indicates that the chemical potential decreases with your raise of temperature at constant pressure. So this is how it gives a variation of your chemical potential with temperature. That is nothing but equal to minus SI bar. Is it clear? Same you have to do with your pressure. So what I've done here, I've taken the Gibbs fourth equation, one of the Gibbs equation, that is dG equal to minus SdT plus VdP. I kept the pressure constant because you are varying with respect to temperature. You have to keep pressure constant. At constant pressure, dP equal to 0. Put 0, 0 to V 0. What I get? dG equal to minus SdT. Put it, bring this D2 here. dG by dt equal to minus S. Put it in a dou form. Dou G by dou T. Pressure is kept constant pressure. Ng also you mentioned because fixed compression equal to minus S. Now differentiate this equation partially with respect to Ni, keeping temperature, pressure, Ng not equal to I here. Now I've done, I've taken this term, written this term. This is differentiated partially with respect to Ni. This is dou by dou Ni. This I kept constant equal. At the same time, you do your minus entropy also. Minus S differentiated partially with respect to Ni. That is dou by dou Ni. Temperature, pressure, engine not equal to I. Now what I do is I interchange the denominator terms. Dou t I take it out. Do when I inside here. At the same time the subscript terms also get interchanged. That is what I obtain. That is what we obtain here. And minus you take it outside. This is not dou minus s. This is dou of minus s. So this dou into minus s minus, now you take it outside minus, and this value is nothing but your chemical potential mu I here. Mu I right here, dou by dou t, pressure Nj, and this is nothing but your, this gives the definition of your SI bar, partial molar entropy of component I, that is minus SI bar. So this gives the variation of your mu I with respect to temperature, that value is nothing but minus SI bar, indicating that the RHS side is found to be negative. It's not that entropy is negative. Entropy is always a positive, but positive into negative is negative. Negative value of RHS side, that is right hand side, states that the chemical potential of component I decreases. Because it is negative, it decreases with respect to your temperature at constant pressure. So this is with temperature. Can you tell me how you do with pressure? You see this and you tell me. Anyone? Now I want to do variation of chemical potential with respect to pressure, not with temperature. Pressure means what you have to keep constant. Same equation you have to take. Same equation you take. What I have to take?
Temperature should be constant.
Yeah, if I keep temperature
It is
constant,
equal
what will
to VdP.
dg equal to vdp. Yeah, dg you get equal to vdp. Done. Then put it in the dou form. This form you get it me?
Dou G by dou P. Dou
Dou
P
g by, yeah,
temperature.
dou p. Yeah, dou p.
Keeping
Temperature
constant
T
temperature and Nj
Nj equal to
minus
equal
S.
to plus V.
plus v. V not minus s, because you are varying with respect to pressure. You get v. Now to this equation you differentiate partially with respect to your Ni, keeping temperature, pressure, and then not constant. That is what you obtain same. So here, when you are varying with respect to pressure, keep temperature constant, dt will be 0. What do you get? dg equal to vdp, or dg by dp equal to v, or dou g by dou p at constant nj equal to v. Now differentiate this equation partially with respect to ni, keeping temperature, pressure, nj equal to, not equal to I, constant here. The same you do this one. I've taken this term, differentiate with dou by dou ni, then temperature by nj not equal to I, equal to, you differentiate this term, that is v of dou v by dou ni, partially differentiate with respect to ni, keeping temperature by n not equal to I. Now interchange these terms. Dou p you take out, dou inside, and this also get interchanged. That is what you obtain this thing, equal to dou v by dou ni, temperature by this one. This value is nothing but your mu I, that is dou mu I by dou p at constant temperature Nj, constant temperature comma Nj equal to Vi bar. This is nothing but what? Vi bar. That gives the definition of partial molar volume of component I. This value is nothing but Vi bar. Is it right hand side positive or negative? RHS side.
Positive, ma'am.
Positive.
What does it indicate then?
Increases.
What
Increase.
increases?
Chemical potential increases.
With respect to pressure at constant temperature. So this is what, with respect to pressure only. You are varying chemical potential with respect to pressure. Since your RHS side is positive, it states that the chemical potential of your ith component increases with respect to pressure at your constant temperature, constant fixed Nj value. So this is very, very important. It's very easy also here. It's very simple here. Okay. So this is regarding the variation of chemical potential. We get temperature and pressure separately. Both may be asked in the examination. Okay. If one is known, definitely you can do it the other automatically here. And final concept of your thermodynamics today is a Gibbs Duhem equation. This is again a very, very, very important and easy one. Nothing is there here. Nothing is there here. Only thing you should remember the equation. That's it. The process is very simple here. So this is the Gibbs Duhem equation you have, and the significance of Gibbs Duhem equation you have to write. This is very, very important question. This and about today's class all are important questions except the significance of your partial molar properties here. And this is the equation known to you already. This is a relation which gives the total free energy and the partial free energy. That is G equal to summation Gi bar Ni. These have gone for all the properties. G equal to summation Gi bar Ni here. What is Gi bar? Nothing but mu I. That I can take as mu I here. Now what you do is remove the summation. Remove the summation. What I can write? G equal to mu1 n1 plus mu2 n2 mu3 n3, so on I can write. Okay, that is what I will tell. G equal to mu1 n1 plus mu2 n2 mu3 n3, so on. Simply differentiate this equation. Simply differentiate this equation. What I can write? dg equal to product of two terms. mu1 dn1 plus n2 d mu1. It's a product of two terms. So d of mu1 n1 is nothing but mu1 dn1 plus n2 d mu1 plus again d of product of two terms is there in the second term. And again in the second term you can see product of two terms. Simply differentiate. What do you get? Mu2 dn2 plus n2 d mu1. Mu2 dn2 plus n2 d mu2 plus mu to the third term. Again product of two terms. Apply the formula. Product of two terms differentiation. Mu3 dn3 plus n3 d mu3. Mu3 dn3 plus n3 d mu3. So on like that you go on. Now what you do is collect all d1 term to one side, d mu terms to the other side. So dg is written as it is. I collected all d1 terms. Mu1 d1, mu2 dn2, mu3 dn3. Close the bracket. Put a plus again. Put the bracket. Collect all d mu1 terms to one side. n1 d mu1, n2 d mu2, n3 d mu3 like this. So on. Close the bracket here. Now after collecting all the terms separately, now again put the summation. I can put it all this in the summation form now. dg equal to summation. What I can write? Mu I dni. Mu I dni plus again what I can write? Ni d mu I. Summation ni d mu I, where I can take the values from 1 to k components. Always I take the value from 1 to k components. So after separating the terms, then I put all these bracket terms in a summation here. Plus is there, it isn't. Again, I can put this in a summation here. Now already we know that equation for an open system or non-equilibrium system, dg is nothing but equal to minus sdt plus vdp plus summation mu I dni. So this is an equation which is known to you, applicable for non-equilibrium or open system here. Write this equation, then compare these two equations. What I can compare? These sides are equal. RHS sides are equal. Compare your right hand side terms. LHS are equal. Compare your right hand side terms. So this term I can take equal to this term. Equal to this term. So this goes cancel off because both terms are same on both the sides. Cancel off. What do you get? Minus SDT plus VDP equal to summation Ni d mu I. Or bring this term to this side. So minus will become plus, minus will become plus, will become minus. Summation Ni d mu I minus SDT plus VDP equal to 0. I'm getting these two terms to this side so that I can make it equal to here. Now put the condition constant temperature. At constant temperature and pressure, dt equal to 0, dp equal to 0. So 0 into v is 0, 0 into s is 0. Now what I get finally? Summation Ni d mu I equal to 0. So this is called as Gibbs-Duhem equation. So Gibbs-Duhem equation. This is the Gibbs-Duhem. Don't get confused with here summation Ni d mu I. Don't write it summation mu I dni. That's wrong. This is a Gibbs-Duhem equation. Nothing but summation Ni d mu I equal to 0. The equation which it obtained is called as Gibbs-Duhem equation. Now what is the significance? So this is for the k components. Suppose if I write only for two components, how I can write? N1 d mu1 plus N2 d mu2 equal to 0. For two components, I can write Gibbs-Duhem equation as N1 d mu1 plus N2 d mu2 equal to 0. Take to this side, it will become negative. Bring to this side, get the expression for d mu1. d mu1 equal to, this will go down here, minus n2 by n1 d mu2. So this shows that the change in chemical potential of component 1 is dependent upon the change in chemical potential of component 2. It is related. It is not independent. It is related to a mu2 component by the relation minus n2 by n1 here. Okay, so it states that it is only two components. If I consider go for a system containing more components, then how you can say that the change in chemical potential of one component, they are not dependent, but they are independent on one another. When you move to a system of more components, the change in chemical. So when you move to a multi-component system here, the change in chemical potential of various components are not independent, but they are dependent on one another. Okay, so this I've shown for only two components here, where the chemical potential of component 1 is related to the chemical potential of component 2 by minus n2 n1 here. They are not independent, but they are dependent on one another. Similarly, when I move to a system containing more than two components, that is a multi-component system, there you can say that in chemical potential of various components are not independent, but they are dependent on one another. That is the significance of Gibbs-Duhem equation. Okay, this is the equation which is known to you already here. This gi bar you replace by your mu r here. Remove the summation, expand it here. Then you simply differentiate this equation. That is what you obtain. Collect all the d1 terms to one side and all d2 terms to the other side here. Then put this in the summation. These terms you put in summation. This term you put in summation. This equation you write it down already. The equation which is known for your write the expression that we know that for an open system or non-equilibrium system, dg equal to minus sdt plus v summation mu I dni. Compare these two equations now. When you compare these two equations, you can correlate your RHS size, that is what I correlated, then cancel off these two, finally what you get, minus sdt plus vd equal to summation this thing. Move these two terms to this side here. That make it equal to 0. Now put the conditions, temperature and pressure kept constant, dt will be equal to 0, dp equal to 0 here. Finally you get summation ni d equal to 0 here. So this equation is called the Gibbs-Duhem equation. So this is the equation which gives for your various components 1 to k here. Suppose if I consider for only two components, I can write it as n1 d mu1 equal to n2 d mu2 equal to 0 here. R mu1 equal to minus n2 by n1 d mu2. So this states that the chemical potential of component 1 is dependent on the chemical potential of component 2. Similarly, when you move to a multi-component system, the change in chemical potential of various components are dependent on one another, but they are not independent of each other. So this is regarding the Gibbs equation, chemical potential of with that is change varying the chemical potential with temperature and pressure. This is a partial molar property significance is not that much important, but definition is important. You remember, in the problems I'll solve. This is a question paper problem. And this is very, very important, determination of partial molar volume by slope on your intercept method. And remember the relation is important. And definition will be asked. How do you define a partial molar volume? How do you define? Replace x by v here. Vi bar equal to dou v by dou ni, temperature, pressure, and not equal. That gives a partial molar definition for component I here. And these are all the partial molar properties here. So this is your end of your thermodynamics. This is your finished, entire thermodynamics is finished. So write all the notes thoroughly in your notebook and just go through each step by step. Each concept you go through it. Try to understand, practice it. It's very, very simple and easy only. So if you practice, it will be very simple. If not, it will be difficult. Yes, someone asked me the entropy changes in various processes. Who is that? Is it Butal?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. She asked me that entropy changes in various processes here. And this entropy term will be coming across in the second law of thermodynamics that was given by the Kelvin Planck here, where they stated that it is not possible for any system undergoing cyclic process to convert equal amount, that means to convert the heat observed by the system, it will be losing some heat to the surroundings also here. That 100% of energy that is observed by the system cannot be done 100% of work on the surroundings here. Okay, so that is not possible for a system which is undergoing cycle by T. Is that statement? Yeah, ds is called del Q reversible by T. It is observed during an infinitesimal process. T is the temperature where the heat is observed. This gives the change in entropy. Now we want to how will entropy change when we consider different processes here. Okay, so entropy change in various processes, that is reverse process they have taken here. Yeah, see this, yeah, there it was short. It is given a different way. You can see here. So this is the definition that we know already here. Okay, ds is called del Q reversible by T here. And this equation, this is for an infinitesimal process. Okay, consider that from state 1, moving from state 1 to state 2 is a reversible path. Okay, so now what would be the entropy change that is involved for this particular reversible process here? Okay, so this is all in known to you, ds is called del T, and this is for an process. When you write this for a finite change, you have to take integration on both sides. Integration of ds is equal to integral of 1 to 2 del Q by T here, and the value of ds is nothing but s, that is nothing but 1 to limits s2 minus s1, you put it, this is written as it is, s2 minus s1 is nothing but delta s. So delta s is equal to integral of 1 to 2 del Q reversible by 2. Okay, and this for a finite change. So for a finite change, finally we can write it as delta s is equal to integral of 1 to 2 del Q reversible by T. So this is how you entropy change, you give expression for the entropy change when moving from part 2 to part 2 is considered to be a reversible pathway.